Hi, everyone. I'm Steven Sigmund.
And I'm Mike Macinio.
And this is the weekly movie Throwdown, a discussion show where each week we dig into a film that fits our overall monthly theme. This month, that's football. The film we're going to talk about this week is 1986's Wildcats, directed by Michael Ritchie. And even though this is fits in our theme, it's a rewatch and reconsider title. So, Mike, you brought it to us. Tell us about it.
It is. I decided to stick with the football theme because I've been watching a lot of football movies this month. I really enjoy watching old football movies, and I thought, what better time to rewatch and reconsider Wildcats, which is just a staple of cable back in the day, around 86, 87. So I must have watched this movie more times than I can count, and had fond memories of it, and thought it was a good time 30 years later to watch it again and see how I felt about it.
Oh, I can't wait to see if it holds up. It's going to be good. Before we talk about it, though, let's have a little news. Do you have any stories this week?
Yeah, just the main one. Word came out that Paramount is basically trying to take over Warner Brothers. And this was expected that someone was going to do this because Zaslav split the companies up for a reason. I think was looking for a buyer, probably for Warner Brothers Discovery. That's what this whole thing has been. And Paramount's trying to jump in and take it over. I mean, this is a pretty big deal. I mean, these are two giant companies in and of themselves, and Paramount gaining control of Warner Brothers opens up a whole host of questions. I mean, large movie library joining together, but one company owning both CBS and CNN is another thing. There's just a lot of stuff going on with this if it actually goes through. And just thought it was worth mentioning. But the thing for us in terms of viewers and people that just watch movies and TV, we're just seeing a return to the old days of giant companies consolidating. We tried to move away from this three big networks and cable into this streaming world. What we're finding now is we're just shrinking back to the way that things were, because I think we're finding out that all this disparate spreading out of things wasn't making anybody any money. So
it's just Discovery, right? It's not like Warner Brothers Television or Warner Brothers Film Studio.
No,
Discovery,
it is. It's Warner Brothers Discovery. That part of it, like they would buy the whole deal. Like they would own the movie studio. Like all that stuff would be combined. Yeah.
Oh, I thought Discovery was a separate thing. Interesting. Well, that would be huge. I saw that this story kind of came across, but I didn't pay attention to it because I know Warner Brothers was kind of chopping off Discovery. Like, I assumed it was the Discovery Channel because I know they own it.
You're right. I know that they were that was the split, but yeah, apparently it's being presented as Warner Brothers Discovery. But when I was reading it, yeah, I was talking about the TV and the movie stuff, that part being purchased.
Wow. That's crazy because Warner Brothers is probably having a better year than any film studio right now. And by all accounts, it looks like from critic ratings and early screening reviews, one battle after another is going to be another huge success for them, which I'm incredibly happy about. But that makes, they also just had the success of this Conjuring film, which like blew past expectations and made $200 million.
Yeah.
So if one battle after another opens with like $70 million, that's, I think, 7 or 8 films in a row for Warner Brothers that have opened to $80 million. And man, that I think, I think David Ellison's probably getting a good deal if that's the case.
Yeah, that may be why they're trying to jump at it, that they're seeing this and they try to strike early before the price goes up. I don't know, but it's definitely something worth watching. I mean, these are two huge companies. And combining into one would be a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Zaslav sticks around, and if they are together. There's two big studio heads. Like, what's that dynamic going to be? Yeah,
and that's the thing. Now that the Ellisons kind of run Paramount, I mean, they have a lot of money to throw around, so this is something they can swoop.
Well, the dad, Larry Ellison, this week just was deemed like the wealthiest man in the world, passing Elon Musk. And he's, he has a big hand in funding this Paramount Skydance merger. So I think he
Better
has
way to
a big
celebrate than
investment.
buying your yeah. What a better way to celebrate than buying yourself another movie studio? Why not?
Yeah. Well, speaking of movie studios, the story that I'm bringing as well is something about it. A little more low key than Warner Brothers and Paramount, but just want to talk about Angel Studios, and they are kind of a smaller studio that basically puts out faith-based films. I see a lot of ads for them before AMC movies. I think they have some kind of deal in conjunction with Fathom Events because that kind of seems like how they're marketed. Um, they call it values driven production. The owners, the three brothers, Neil Jordan and Jeff Harmon, but they went public this week, and the story I read about it was like it was kind of tragic because they did it the day after the Charlie Kirk assassination, and he was a big fan of them, and they were going to go on his show next week to promote this IPO. Um, and it was also on September 11th. So the story that I read, I think on IndieWire, builds, these guys just sitting in the New York Stock Exchange launching their IPO, but just feeling like really glum about it because a lot had happened. I bring it up because it's a little scary to me that they are going public because they sort of have an ideology. And what I find interesting about them is that they have something that they call the Guild, which is like a subscription based program that people can pay anywhere from like, or they call it the Angel Guild, and they can pay anything from like $5 to $20 a month to have say in the content. And the people who are part of this Angel Guild, and it has a 1.5 million members now. So they get to see rough cuts, they get to see things in production, and they basically drive where these stories go, which is an interesting model. But I think because it's so ideologically based, it's a little worrisome.
I mean, not even whatever the larger picture is. Just how do you get 1.5 million people to agree on anything? And who gets
I know.
veto power? Like, can one person decide this doesn't work for me? Like that feels like a really difficult way to make anything.
I think they
Jesus.
just maybe they look at the the majority and see what the majority, like how they want a story to go. Or I mean, I don't know the details of it, like the ins and outs of the Angel
Well, I
Guild,
mean, you
but
open this can of worms. Now I am fascinated at understanding how the mechanism of this works because that is a crazy way to make content.
what's interesting is that their films don't make a ton of money, but they don't have to because it's almost like crowdsourcing in a way. I mean, it's like a Kickstarter for the studio, and so yeah, they have a bit of say in it. I would imagine, the stock opened at a pretty low number. I think it closed the day at like $13, but it was up to over $20 during the initial IPO. I haven't looked at it today, but I would think if people are paying for this Angel Guild thing, they're probably going to buy stock as well. And so that's going to pump up the value of the company too. And it's interesting how these studios they're almost like influencers now, where you can buy a subscription to an Instagram account or you can buy a subscription to a YouTube account. It's like Patreon or something. So it's just something to keep an eye on. I thought it was something to watch for going forward.
Yeah, and I think that says a lot about where we are now. If you want to make smaller projects, that's why we're seeing Substack. People moving to places like Substack, people trying to figure out a way to get a small number of people to bankroll your projects and be able to do what you want to do. So I think we're just going to see more creative ways in the future, especially as we see, I mean, these stories do tie in because we see more consolidation amongst the big companies. You're going to find smaller people having to go out there and find their own funding to make the projects they want to make because you're no longer going to find that at the studios who are only interested in big. So, this kind of model of finding small donors or Patreons or people who are willing to pay some money to get some say over what you do. Yeah, I think that we'll see more of that in the future. So you're right that this is something to follow. And yeah, I'm definitely going to read more about how this works and figure out if I can get involved. I would like to have a say.
Well, maybe we should make a Patreon and
We
our
should.
20 listeners
I would
can
be. I would love
tell
to
us
see
what they
rough
think.
cuts of those movies and try to get involved. That'd be great.
Yeah. I mean, you would want to join as like, at least I would want to join as like the antithesis of the Christian values. And, all of my opinions would be like more sex scenes, more blood, like who
I
the
don't
hell is
know.
this guy?
See, this is what's interesting. On a side note, we talked about this before, where you know, trying to watch stuff with families, trying to watch stuff with kids, and I realized at a certain point a few months ago that they were just the body count was way too high in the movies we were watching. I was just counting the bodies piling up. I'm like, all right, we need to find movies with less of body counts. So I'm always interested in trying to find, more. I don't want to use the word wholesome, but just movies where less people are being murdered. That would be nice. Um, and,
Yeah.
and crazily enough, those kinds of places are the only people that are focused on that. And I don't know why, because I do think there are a lot of people that would watch just old school family movies, which used to exist. There was a whole category of that back in the 80s and even the 90s. I don't know where they went. So I don't think they're even wrong in that regard. I know it leans towards faith and all of that, which is how they want to handle it. But just the idea of making movies for families is not the worst idea in the world. So so yeah, I'll be keeping track of the IPA too, just to see where it goes.
Gonna buy some stock?
I don't know, maybe, but I'm not against doing a Patreon thing. Buying stock, getting involved.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Well, let's move on from that and talk about this week's film from 1986, directed by Michael Ritchie. It's Wildcats.
Yeah, and this would definitely not be in part of the Angel network of movies.
It would not. That's for sure. So a quick synopsis. Goldie Hawn plays Molly McGrath, who is a girls track coach at a kind of well-to-do school in the suburbs of Chicago. She grew up with football. Her dad was a coach, and she really wants to coach football, but sexism gets in the way. It's the 80s. There's a lot of that. Nobody wants her to do it. Even when a JV chance opens up, she volunteers for it. They won't let her do it. Instead, they ship her off to an inner city school called Central, which is inhabited by just unruly kids who are probably 30 years old. And it's a typical football story where she has to, gain the respect of the team. And she also has to navigate sort of a tumultuous personal life at the same time. And it's quite a story. Not all that unusual of a story, but fun to watch. So what are your initial thoughts on it? Why did you bring it to us?
Yeah, my initial thoughts were that I remember enjoying this movie a lot uh, when I was younger. I used to watch it a lot and thought it would be fun to revisit and see what we thought about it. What I didn't know was uh, how many people did not like this movie. Like I just kind of did a brief look online and it's just dismissed as being a lousy movie.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm more than happy to cop to the fact that the character development is not fantastic. I'm more than happy to cop to the fact that it's casually racist. I mean, it is a movie in the mid 80s. The idea of it being sexist, here I am, I'm going to defend Wildcats because I still liked this movie. I found it to be a very easy watch. It's a breezy movie to sit through. A lot of plot holes as you sit and watch it. I've never seen a coach win over a team so quickly for no reason at all. Honestly, they just kind of fall right in line. It's pretty funny. Just doesn't work that hard.
There's a real balance there of like she only has so much energy of like people liking her because as quickly as she wins the team over, she immediately loses her children in the same amount of time.
They turn on her like immediately. Yeah, that's so just wild swings of emotions throughout this movie. Half the football games make no sense. They seem to all end on a last second touchdown. I'm not even sure what games they win or lose. It's not great. None of that's great. I still think it's a highly enjoyable movie. And I will say this, and watching this as a kid, it was probably 10, 11 when I saw it. I used to watch it all the time. I don't want to speak to how women should or shouldn't feel about anything. And I read some writer, like a female writer, who thought this was a particularly terrible movie about how it dealt with women. Even the fact that it craps on girls track. And I understand all of that as well. Although she wants to coach football, so she thinks girls track is not good in comparison. But to me, you know, watching a woman be able to stand up for herself, go after what she wants, even though they're literally treating her as a joke, and not only be able to turn this team around, but also fighting her husband for custody and kind of ending up standing up for herself and getting what she wants. I personally, for me, and as a young kid, I thought that was good to see for me, and I think about that a lot, about how I see things. Like I think a lot of how I see the world is from watching these bad '80s movies and just kind of watching people persevere and push through for things. And so I just never thought anyone couldn't do anything from watching bad '80s movies. And this is one of them. I thought, hey, she wants to coach football. She makes it happen. She knows more than anybody else because she's smarter than they are. She proves she can do it. And she ends up coaching this team to a championship and helping her kids grow as people and getting her ex-husband on board. It's kind of a feel-good movie. I always liked it. I still like it, even though I know it's many, many problems.
I always find that there's kind of a kernel of that enjoyment and like sort of a lesson in '80s films now, going back in retrospect. I mean, you really have to wade through things that are stereotypes of the '80s, like sexism, classism, racism, and there's always something underneath that if you can look past all of that is a nice thing. This has a lot of like Private Benjamin in it, kind of a fish out of water story where somebody has to come
Absolutely. There's a
together.
lot of Private Benjamin.
Yeah. And I don't think there are a lot of female centric sports films. So it's nice to see that. Also, there, from the things we've watched, both in football and baseball, I mean, maybe Richie's film, The Bad News Bears, is a little like this, but you don't see a lot of like coach centered films. It's always kind of like the team or like a certain player on the team or an ensemble. I mean, there's almost no character development in this film, but I mean, clearly the focus of it is this Molly McGrath character.
There is, though, history of like '80s TV. I mean, look, this clearly falls into the white sports savior category, which is a huge category. White coach comes in, saves an inner city school or whatever the case may be. And there were a lot of these. I mean, going all the way back to the White Shadow, kind of in a way. I mean, a lot of it was on TV. This is a story well told, but in the fact that it uses a woman this time, I think is interesting. It's a little bit of a different twist of it. That makes it a little more interesting because she's dealing with her own stuff of even wanting to do this. So, in those other movies, it's just someone coming into a hostile environment, but she's dealing with hostility from all sides, dealing with being dismissed on all sides, and kind of has to prove herself to every single person that she can do this. Just prove it to her ex-husband, the head of the school, the jerk off coach who didn't want to coach JV, her own kids. Every single person in the movie, she has to prove something to.
Yeah, and really she has to prove it to all of them because of sexism, ultimately. I mean, nobody believes and nobody wants her to do this. So and the coach, I can't remember his name, Dan, played by Bruce McGill. He's all on board, perhaps at the beginning when uh, she plays racquetball with him and he's open to listening to it. Maybe he wants to go get dinner and talk about it. But when she turns down his advances, which are there from the very beginning, like on the field, he's kind of coming on to both her and her sister in the first scene of the film. But once she shuts him down, it's like, oh, it's on now. And then, it's a real ego thing for him the whole
And
time.
beats him in racquetball, which also
Right.
none of the scoring in any of the games in this movie makes sense because she's immediately winning 3-1, and they said they were playing a 5, and then she wins one more point, and then she wins, which technically is only 4, but yet she won. Scoring's not important in this movie. It's the feeling that matters, okay? Don't pay attention to any of the scores.
Yeah, the sports are very secondary, including the football, I think. I mean, they don't spend a lot of time. The football scenes feel like high school football, like it's very sort of like chaotic, and it's even filmed chaotically. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of like thoughtful cinematography that goes into it, or a lot of like staging or building of scenes. It's just like one
They
and
did not
done.
get any of the NFL films people to work on Wildcats, that's for sure.
That's very true. And it shows, but I think that almost works for it. And that's also very, very much like a hallmark of the 80s, I think, is that it there's not a lot of like technical brilliance put into these films. And clearly that's the case here. It's serviceable, but it's not like Roger Deakins is on set, like thinking of how these football scenes will go. And it's also a very like stereotypical film in the sense of like this is what the 80s sees minorities as. I mean, from driving through Chicago to get to Central High School, to just how the black players act is kind of crazy. I mean, there's just so many stereotypes in this, and
Yeah, the
you really have to work hard.
stereotypes abound. There really are. But it's an equal opportunity stereotyping movie because you have, the uptight wife, the jerk ex-husband, the horribly sexist head football coach. I mean, it's basically just caricatures abound. So why would the inner city students be nuanced? That's not really. I don't think anyone gets a nuanced view in this movie. So that's my
I
one. It's my one excuse for like, the casual racism in this movie. It's like at least everybody is painted with a broad brush.
Yeah, no stereotype is left unturned in this.
No.
It's written by Ezra Sachs, who doesn't have a lot of credits. In fact, he only has 3 credits to his name.
Yeah. So I was going to talk about him because you look at his history. It's pretty fascinating. He only wrote technically 3 movies, but supposedly he's worked or possibly touched up scripts for a bunch of different people, including Zemeckis and a few other directors from the 80s. But he went to become a teacher at NYU, a film professor, and he did that for like 20 years. I don't know if he's still doing it. The last I saw was kind of in the late, like the 2010, like the early 2010s. He was still coaching at NYU. He's still teaching at NYU, and it is a beloved teacher there. So I don't know where he is now, but yeah, kind of took doing some touch ups and writing 3 movies and kind of found his place, I guess, of being a teacher and a professor. So
I'd be curious to see what else he worked on. There are only 3 IMDb listings.
yeah, but we both know there are a lot of those guys or people, men, women, everybody that works on movies behind the scenes where they know someone, they'll send you a script, touch it up for me, and you won't get any credit for it. So, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, it's possible he's worked on some major things.
I have to say though, I don't know if they send them the script to work on character development because I'm not sure that's his strong suit.
Yeah, I was thinking about the Molly character, and there really isn't even a lot of growth for her. I mean, I don't know what the kind of like the lesson she learns is, other than maybe just speaking up for herself, but she kind of does that almost right away. I mean, I love like the empowerment of it. I think it's a great thing to see because she's battling so much, but I don't see a lot of like change in her by the end.
Yeah, I don't think she needs to change. I don't think that's even the point.
Yeah.
I think the point is that she's right. I don't think she needs to change. The
Yeah,
point is
that's true.
everyone else around her needs to change. They need to accept that she's an equal and should be allowed to do what she wants and have her own agency. I think that's what it is, that all these people are assuming that she shouldn't have agency of her own life. And in the end, she just, perseveres through the end. So yeah, I don't think it's character development on her end. I think it's character development on uh, everyone around her actually being able to find an in for these kids too and help them win. I mean, if we want to get deep into the story of Wildcats, I mean, that's what I take from it. I don't think there's too much you want to take from it in general, but that that's where I'm coming from when I watch it.
Do you think that this inspired Dangerous Minds? Because that feels like, from my memory, kind of the same story of a woman going into the inner city and sticking true to who she is.
You know, it would not surprise me.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I mean,
And
yeah,
if we're talking between the two movies, I like Wildcats a lot better than I like Dangerous Minds, by the way. Because here's the thing, and this is the difference too, that Wildcats isn't trying to be anything other than what it is. Like, it's just trying to be kind of was a throwaway entertaining movie in the mid 80s, where Dangerous Minds is trying to give you something more. It's trying to be a message movie. And in a way, that's why Dangerous Minds doesn't work for me. I find it condescending, and I don't particularly love that kind of thing. Where Wildcats is not trying to teach me much, and I'm fine with that because I don't need any life lessons from Wildcats. I'm good, thank you.
they're even similar in that they have like a famous hip hop artist doing the main
That's
song
right.
from the
That is right.
film. So, and
And
we'll
as a
talk
perfect
about that.
example, one is silly and the other one is a very serious song.
Yeah, yeah.
So
it's
it's about taking
uh,
yourself. Yeah, it's about taking yourself seriously. I guess Wildcats does not take itself that seriously.
it doesn't, and I don't take it that seriously either. Though I think that I tried to look at it through a bit of a feminism lens, and it's probably not a good thing to do.
Yeah, as I said, I mean, watching it again, I do see it through the eyes I saw it with when I was a kid. And again, far be it for me to argue with anyone who thinks that this is not strong enough on his feminism. I'm not going to argue that point. It's not even my job to argue that point. So everyone can have their own opinions about it. But for me personally, I liked the message. I thought it was cool that that she knows what she's doing. She proves she knows how to do it, sticks it to that guy, and wins in the end. Nice, simple, wrapped up in a bow. It's as good as you could hope for in the mid '80s, I think.
It's very fundamental. I think that's kind of what makes it uh, a little more watchable now, because I don't know if it wasn't that simple if I would have enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it like immensely, but I would have enjoyed it less if it were a little more complex than it is. I think a big reason of why I did enjoy it as well as I did is Goldie Hawn, and she is kind of having a good decade in the 80s, and it got me thinking, like, who could play this role today? If I mean, they would never make this film because it's so racist and sexist, but is there like a 21st century analog to Goldie Hawn who could play this role or carry a film like this? I think she
Well, you
was
know
very
what?
singular.
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy is that her daughter, Kate Hudson, is in a show on Netflix that
Right.
basketball show where she kind of plays Jeannie Buss. In a way, when you think about it, yeah, it's like her daughter is the person who probably could take
That's
that
true.
part. Like they give off a similar energy in that way. So that was what I was thinking about. But yeah, there aren't that many people. I just think Goldie Hawn had amazing charisma. I think she's an incredibly likable screen presence. And that was some of the reviews that I saw had even said like they liked the movie because of Goldie Hawn, but she's pushing it. Where it's like this movie tested the limits of your love of Goldie Hawn,
Yeah.
and that's probably fair. But yeah, I think in a different actress's hands, it probably wouldn't be as likable a movie. There's just something about her that's incredibly engaging. And you're right. She'd kind of been on a heater since uh, since the late '70s. So I mean, she was in Foul Play, and Private Benjamin obviously was a big one. Seems like Old Times is a favorite one of mine. She did a few movies with Chevy Chase. She did that movie with Burt Reynolds too, which I kind of liked. Um, yeah, this is just her, and this is a movie she actually produced.
Right.
So I think that says something as well that she's trying to find projects to work in. And just think, so she had produced this to find a script that she felt comfortable working on, and she found Wildcats. So what does that say about the other movies she was being offered? Honestly,
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, 1986, like it's not a good time for equality in any way. I mean, it's the height of excess for the white man, and like, especially in America, it's yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough for a woman out there in the 80s, and still. But yeah, I think she kind of has this like soft edge to her, I think. And I I don't know if it's like ditzy. I don't think it's ditzy. I think she's very good at being serious with what she's doing, but there's always kind of like an ebullience to her where she's just like bubbly and sweet, even if she's mad. And I think that's a big part of what makes it so likable for me. And we'll get to the end and the end song, but in that I saw a lot of like her from Laugh-In, and that's where she got her start playing
Yeah.
somebody who's like an airhead. That was the character, and I think that carries through her film work and into this, and she tones that down, but there's still a little bit of it there, and I think that's what makes it like she's not Michelle Pfeiffer in Dangerous Minds. It could go in that direction. Obviously, the film has a different tone, but I think that soft edge is what really makes her perfect for this role.
Yeah, it's a certain playfulness that she always has about her. And it makes her very, very easy to root for.
Well, she's not the only person in this film worth talking about. Two very notable firsts in Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes making their film debuts here. And boy, did they come out swinging. Really kind of taking over, especially Wesley. I mean, he is right out front. And
And look, regardless of what you think of the character, which again is pretty stereotypical character, not that much to work with, but again, his charisma is easily noticeable. I mean, he jumps out even within a character which isn't great. He's just incredibly engaging. Like he's likable almost immediately.
I think he would have been likable in 1986, but to me, watching it now, I'm like, I get that he's charismatic and fun, but his actions are like reprehensible. I mean,
So
he's terrible.
is he slightly rapey? Yeah, I mean that's definitely true. But he's supposed to be
Especially like Jan Hooks, I mean, at the party, he literally puts his arm around her neck. And the first thing he asks her is what her favorite sexual position is. He tries to sleep with the judge in Goldie Hawn's custody case in order to help her cause.
I don't make me defend Wesley Snipes' character in this movie because I can't defend any of that.
Yeah.
I can still say though that even then you can see a spark of what an engaging actor he is, because it's true based on all the things that he does. It's kind of a despicable person, but I don't find that I hate him because I think that Wesley Snipes is just a very likable on-screen presence. So I think that says a lot more about him than it does about anything else.
I agree. I mean, you can look past the writing and just see that on-screen presence, and he has it. And Woody has it in a way too that's sort of the antithesis of that. He's far more toned down. You see a lot of the Woody Boyd character from Cheers.
I was just going to say that. You can see now why they might have wanted him, even after that one line where I forget the exact line, but he says that he's excessively truant.
Yeah.
And then he says, "Oh, I didn't know he was sick," like that kind of thing. Like the delivery of that line is Woody Boyd 100%.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, he's perfect for that. And really just like the counter to Wesley Snipes in this. And that's going to go forward in 3 other films where the two of them kind of do that thing. So it's really kind of the birth of like this great relationship that you're seeing on screen in this. So
Yeah, it's
for
cool. It's
all of
where they meet each other. Yeah.
yeah, like all of the film's faults, at least we know that that's birthed out of this, and that's pretty great. So uh, one thing that's good.
Another, obviously, Bruce McGill plays the terrible coach of Prescott. We know him from Animal House, of course, but that was his first movie, I believe. What I thought was pretty fascinating, and maybe this interests only me, is that one of the things that he did really early in his career, a couple of years before this, is that he was in a TV show called Semi Tough, which I barely remembered. Why it's interesting is that it's based on the movie Semi Tough that Burt Reynolds was in the late 70s. And that movie was directed by Michael Ritchie, the same person that
Uh,
directed Wildcats.
right.
So I just think that's a fun little connection there. That TV show did not last, and by all accounts, it wasn't very good. I don't remember it at all.
I want to talk about Bruce McGill for a second because he's somebody I really love. And he and M. Emmett Walsh, who is also in this, just tremendous character actors. And I have kind of been going, as we watch a few of these films that he's been in, going back and looking at his filmography. He's been in like everything. He shows up, even if it's a bit part. But as we've watched things from like the 80s, especially in the 90s, he really jumps out at me. And I didn't notice him when I watched these things the first time. I think he really like stayed on my radar, sadly, all the way up in The Legend of Bagger Vance, like, which I don't, what was that, like 90s? And that's kind of when he really clicked for me. But going back and watching all of these things, he's awesome. I mean, he's always super memorable.
Yeah.
But I was a kid when I watched them and he never really like stuck for me. And just a great, great character actor who has a ton of range. And the same with M. Emmett Walsh. And we really need to do like a character actor month somehow. And these two guys should be like top of the list because they're both just so versatile and so ubiquitous from like the 80s forward.
Right.
And
And these two guys
Walsh,
and Nipsey Russell. I mean, those
Nipsey Russell
three
too.
actors in this movie are just three actors that are really good at what they do, and they're all very memorable in the roles that they have in this movie. Another reason this movie works, as I said, the script's not great, but it's cast really well.
Yeah.
You find a lot of people that are engaging and are putting in the work. I mean, one of the reasons I loved this movie was specifically because of Nipsey Russell. I just think that character is really funny, and he's a really fascinating actor to think about. If you check his filmography, he hasn't been in that many things, but he's just well known. Like everybody kind of knows his face, they know his character, and part of that is he got his start doing comedy routines back in the 60s, I think it was. But what most people know him for, and what I knew him for, was the late 70s and early 80s, where you could make a living just being on game shows. Like there were just people who made a living by showing up on shows like Password and Hollywood Squares and whatever it was. And if you were memorable, you could just have a career of doing that. And that was what he ended up doing. Like he was just so likable and engaging off the cuff that he worked for years just on every game show you could imagine. And that was why I knew him so well. So just kind of seeing him in this movie, I'd love to see a Nipsey Russell. It just felt like you knew him. And I just loved everything about his delivery in this movie.
I remember him from Hollywood Squares because he always had a rhyme. He would write like a little rhyming poem
thing. Yeah. Right. I think that Nipsey Russell saying "right" in this movie is as memorable to me as saying "shit" in The Wire. It's like the same kind of thing to me. Like I think about those are just great line deliveries that only singular actors can pull off.
And I also have to mention James Keach, who is great in this as the ex-husband. Not a huge career that stands out to me, but he was in Vacation. He played the motorcycle cop. And then right after that, he was in Fletch, I think. But he was also in something that I'd love to talk about on this show. And maybe when we do a rewatch and reconsider in December, I'll bring it up. But is there a movie called Moving Violations about
Richard Pryor you're talking about?
Yeah. And you have to, no, that's moving. Yeah.
Moving Violation. Go ahead.
Moving. It's, it has John Murray in it. He's the lead. Jennifer Tilly's in it. It's from, I think, 85-ish. And James Keach is like build number 3. And it's about a bunch of people who like have their driver's licenses revoked and they have to go back to like driving school at night. And John Murray is kind of like the cut up and doesn't want to be there. And it's just really, really fun. So I'm glad you've never seen it because I really want to talk about it when we do our
I don't
next
think I
rewatch and
have. We
reconsider.
may have to add that one. That's pretty cool. All right.
Yeah, that's what I know him from the most. But he's great in this. I mean, he has a weird, like, almost on a dime 180 at the football game where he's very supportive at the end,
Yeah, no.
which is kind of crazy, just like the kids have and the team has. Like
Again,
the
not much nuanced character development here. We're just kind of going like from 0 to 100 and everybody, and then whiplash back and forth. That's the way this movie works. I just wanted to say quick that Jan Hooks plays his new wife, and this was about a year before she joins SNL, which is a long run on SNL, and this is right before that, so it's a pretty early role for her.
yeah.
If I mean, I didn't even know who she was at the time, but yeah, she ends up being pretty key person in that run of SNL, from the late '80s. So
Uh, Jan Hooks was just one of my favorites. She always just stood out to me. Like her work with Phil Hartman, especially, was
right,
they were just so good together.
and
And
this is kind of a window into that. She's just like very dry, and she has a good way of delivering a really dry line, which it
yeah,
serves her really well at SNL.
yep. But yeah, Michael T. Williamson, great in this as Bird. I was surprised to see him. I didn't know he was in it, and a great
Yeah.
role.
So he was in two movies around this time that I watched a lot. He was in a movie called Streets of Fire
Oh
in
yeah,
1984. A small role as a musician in a group that they hook up with. And then he was in this. Just two movies I watched a lot back in that time. And so I just always liked him. I thought in this movie he's really, again, not exactly the most a little bit of a thankless role here too, like petty criminal, but really good at football. But again, there's just something about him that is incredibly engaging in this movie. I always liked him as a screen presence, and he was in a bunch of stuff. Even from this point on in the '80s, he had some TV show stuff that he worked on. I think he was in an episode of Give Me a Break, which I think I've mentioned before, how much I loved Nell Carter back in the day.
yeah.
So he had a lot of steady work in the '80s. He's obviously more the star of this movie out of any of the other players, much more so than Wesley Snipes or Woody Harrelson. I never quite understood why he didn't jump off. I've talked about this before. There's just certain actors that I really found engaging and that I love seeing on screen that are memorable to me. I can never quite figure out why they never made it over the top. But he actually ends up, after this, he's in a TV show called The Bronx Zoo. He's in quite a few episodes of that. That was created by Gary David Goldberg, the same guy who made Family Ties. But again, same thing. Ed Asner plays an elderly white principal, white principal who goes to a Bronx high school, and tries to hold it together. Like it's straight up like white savior high school stuff. Yeah.
What even
And
was the '80s? I mean,
I don't
it's
know.
all this. My
But Michael
God.
C. Williamson was on that show too. And I remember watching that show, and I do remember him in that as well. So it, again, just someone that always stood out to me, and not quite sure why he didn't become bigger than he was. I mean, clearly anyone that knows him from being in Forrest Gump. Which again, you even realize that's the same actor. I mean, the person Bird in this movie and the person that plays Bubba in that movie, it feels like a completely different actor. So I just think he's a much better actor than he gets credit for, and probably should have been bigger than he was than he's been. He's still acting. He's still around.
I think
He had
he's
a
just.
great he had a great run in Justified as well. He had like a great one season arc, or maybe it was 2 seasons. I don't remember, but he was also even really memorable in that.
He's a character actor. I mean, I put him, with Bruce McGill and M. Emmett Walsh in this, and they're guys who don't blow up, but they're solid, and you remember them. And uh, Michael T. Williamson is incredibly versatile. I mean, all the things you just mentioned are all over the place, and he's been, in Forrest Gump. He's been in this. He's been in The Purge. He was in Fallout last year. Like, he shows up no matter what the tone of it is, and he nails it. And that's what all of those guys do. The other two guys we mentioned earlier, I think that's what makes this film. One of the things that makes it really interesting is like you said, the script doesn't matter, but the performers are people who would either go on to do some like amazing work or were kind of in their heyday at this time. And yeah, I've never seen that I can think of off the top of my head. Such a great cast with such a bad script. That's pretty much what it
And
is.
I think that's it in a nutshell. I think that to me is why this feels like a quintessential 80s movie.
Yeah,
Besides all the
it's
casual
true.
sexism and racism, but
Yeah.
it's just there were a lot of good character actors and fun young actors in this period of time, and they show up in a bunch of things and elevate a bunch of terrible scripts into highly watchable cable movies that were on all the time. And that's essentially the entirety of the mid 80s.
Yeah, it really is. Everything was on HBO, and I remember this. I don't watching it again, I didn't remember the beats of it or anything, but I surely remembered seeing it on HBO. I definitely remember the end, the credits stuff, and it's yeah, just so indicative of that time. I mean,
Very
it's really
much.
a time capsule, and it's kind of fun. I mean, I still watching it in 2025. I have a little bit of trouble with some of the stuff in it, but uh,
We'll
that might
say.
be good for people to watch these days who don't necessarily get, what racism and sexism are, because it's pretty overt here and they can sort of understand how it works a little better. Uh, we mentioned the turnaround that James Keach has at the football game. And a big part of that is because this has, like most football movies we watched or will watch, the halftime speech. And in this one, the speech partially takes place in the locker room, and it's not very motivating. But then I think it's unique in that she goes outside to tell James Keach off and wins him over, and then like off on the side is the team supporting her, wins them back over to have a banner second half of the game. The game is really a tale of two
What's
halves.
funny to me too is we talk about the football not mattering. Based on the sequence they show you in the first half of the movie, you think they were down by 12 touchdowns. Like
Yeah,
they get their asses kicked up and down the field. Yet we don't even know the score. I think it's pretty low score. And then
yeah.
they're able to get close enough where they can win in a last second block field goal. It just feels like the game is so far out of reach, and yet it's not. Scores don't matter. Only vibes matter in this movie. It's fine. You don't need to.
Well, I think the M. Emmett Walsh character kind of mansplains it to Swoozie Kurtz when he says like, "Oh, they're going to get 3 points or whatever, and all the yelling won't matter." And so we get a sense of the score there, but
It should not have been that close. That's
no,
what
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't figure out. We should not, based on what we saw, it shouldn't even have been that close. But yeah, we
yeah,
didn't even talk about the ultimate stereotype, which is Finch, just like the overweight
right.
guy that is like a punchline throughout the movie, but who ends up being the pivotal character that wins in the game, which we always knew was going to happen. That was pretty much laid. The groundwork on that one was laid from the get go, so we knew that was coming. Although the thought of him being able to jump high enough to block a field goal, maybe one of the more ridiculous ways to win a football game you could possibly imagine.
Especially when his belly's full of like cakes and pies and all the things
Right.
he ate during the first half.
I shouldn't even laugh. That is so, it's so bad, like so ridiculously stereotypical, like eating cakes and pies on the sideline. Like I don't even know what to say about that. It's so
It's like the whole
ridiculous.
first half, every
Yeah.
shot he has a different full pie, and then he goes on to have a vertical that's apparently better than Dr. J. I mean, he's
Yeah.
like just it reminded me of the end of I'm spoiling it, but the curse, the Nathan Fielder thing, if you watch that, where he floats away at the end because Finch is just like it's like he's a hot air balloon. He's just rising and rising and rising for like 3 seconds. And then he
Amazing.
blocks that shot. Unbelievable. Put the Wall Street Journal down on the sideline and went over and did his job. What a
Very impressive.
character. That is such an 80s character. Oh my
Yeah.
god. I
It,
mean,
it
they all
really
are.
is.
Yeah. It's so funny.
I actually want to talk about Michael Ritchie a little bit before we finish. We didn't really talk about the director. So we talked about him already because he directed the Bad News Bears, which was really early on in his career. But I didn't realize how many other sports movies he actually had directed, because before he directs the Bad News Bears, like one of his very first movies was Downhill Racer with Robert Redford, a movie about skiing. And then he directs the Bad News Bears. Like I said, the next movie after that is Semi Tough, which is a football adjacent movie. It's not really a football movie, it's a relationship movie, but it's about football players. He directs Wildcats, directs a movie called Digstown, with Lou Gossett Jr., which is a boxing movie, which I kind of like that movie as well. And he directs The Scout. One of the last movies he directed was that movie, The Scout, with Brendan Fraser in '94, where he plays like a baseball phenom pitcher. So Michael Ritchie clearly liked directing movies about sports, even though he wasn't exactly a very good sports director. Like none of the sports in any of his movies are truly memorable, but he must have liked making movies that involve sports because he made quite a few of them.
It's also worth mentioning, at least to me, and this might pop up next month when we talk about not scary, scary movies. He was a producer on one of my favorite cornball horror parodies from 1980 called Student Bodies, which was just a complete send up of like Black Christmas and Halloween and Friday the 13th. It's really terrible, but it's so corny that I kind of love it. And he did not love it because he ended up getting the Alan Smithy producer credit, which is the credit that people put on films when they don't want to be associated with it.
Really?
No foresight to the internet where all of that would be revealed, I guess. But he was Alan Smithy on Student Bodies, which I highly recommend people go watch if they want to watch something incredibly stupid, but so stupid it's kind of fun. So yeah, quite a career for Michael Ritchie in a lot of weird ways.
Yeah, a career. He spent a lot of different things. I mean, he directed the Bette Midler concert movie back in 1980, Divine Madness, which is another thing I kind of remember. Well known for directing Fletch. And he directed both Fletch movies with Chevy Chase. Directed the only bad Eddie Murphy movie in the 80s, which was Golden Child.
See,
I know you have love for the Golden Child. See?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, that
was also him.
Yep.
So yeah, he's kind of all over the place, but directed a lot of movies in that late 70s, early 80s period.
Yeah, and he was working right up until he died. I mean, he died in 2001 and had directed something called The Fantastics in 2000, directed things all through the 90s. So yeah, it's an interesting career and kind of, I think with Fletch and the Bad News Bears, I mean, a lot of his stuff isn't that memorable, but I think those two things really stand the test of time for better or worse and are kind of like cultural hallmarks for comedy.
I mean, you hope to make one kind of classic movie in your career. He definitely made at least two. I think The Candidate, which is unlike almost anything else he directed, to be honest. The Candidate was a movie in '72 with Robert Redford, which is really kind of prescient for our modern times, where it plays this guy who's plucked out to run for office, having no experience or anything. I think if you go back and watch that movie now, it's really good movie and kind of speaks more to our time now than even back then.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. Maybe you want to move on to music, to our music minute, because
our music minute, there's a lot to talk about.
There's a whole lot to talk about in this. So
we'll get the big one right out of the way at the top.
Yeah.
This is '86. LL Cool J had, I think, only released Radio up to this point, his debut album. So they asked him to do a song for this movie, I guess. Not only does he make a song for the movie, he actually appears in the movie in the middle of the movie at a party, inexplicably. But he writes this football song where he just name drops a bunch of old players. Like, it's some of it, like the most ridiculous rhymes of all time, and I can't get enough of it. What I discovered is that Jimmy Fallon actually brought this up to him on the Tonight Show not that long ago.
Really?
And played some of it for him. You could see he was visibly embarrassed because he actually played the line where he rhymes. I forget the guys. It was a real good player, played so good that he could be mayor, which is the greatest line couplet ever, possibly.
He tried.
And there was another football player named Barry, and he says, asked if he was strong, and I would say very, like something like that. Like, it's just a couple of lines where you're like, did he write this song in 5 minutes? Like, it's fantastic. But LL was like I think LL was probably like 18 years old at this point. Because when Radio came out, he was only 16. And this was right before he releases Bigger and Deffer, which gives you LL history, which is kind of the record that put him on the map. It's the first, and that's also the first record that I ever heard. So the first time I ever saw LL Cool J, ever heard him, was this movie. And then a little bit after that, a friend of mine on a school bus let me listen to Bigger and Deffer, which was a record he released in '86, and that really put him on the map for me. But that was what blew him up. So this is very, very early in his career, and clearly he wasn't trying that hard. They asked him to write a football song, and this is what he came up with. I suggest anyone just go and read the lyrics. It's amazing.
It really is.
But you also have to remember, at this time, hip hop was still really early on in this, and it was still almost considered a novelty music. So that's part of why they took it that seriously, and I think that's partially why in the end credits you get that revisit of this song with the actors kind of rapping parts about their characters, because it kind of falls into that novelty rap thing, which at this period of time was kind of the biggest thing in rap. I don't know if you remember, but like Eddie Murphy and Joe Piscopo made the Honeymooners rap, and Billy Crystal made a rap as Fernando. Rodney Dangerfield put a rap song. The idea that rap was almost like a joke, like a novelty thing.
Well, that takes it to the ultimate level, because the ending is clearly a spoof of the Super Bowl Shuffle from the year before, which is like just a complete parody of of hip hop in a way, So yeah, I mean it's goofy, and the football song actually wasn't on the soundtrack, if you can believe it, and they put out like a bigger edition of it that had it.
How can that be?
Isn't that crazy?
They
really play the song 3 times in the movie, and it's not on the soundtrack.
That is crazy. And I guess they probably put it out a little while later when LL blew up, and they realized we probably should put that on there. As bad as the song is, we probably should put it on the soundtrack.
Yeah, and one of the ways you can tell that this is an '80s movie is because of the music, not just the hip hop, but it's pure like middle '80s synthesizer upbeat nonsense. They even have Mavis Staples singing like one of these corny songs. I know you.
Yeah. I will go to the mat for that song. I love that song. It's not like Rocky montage good, but in terms of sport montage music in the '80s, it's up there. I enjoy that song. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go to the mat on that one.
So I had closed captioning on when I watched this, and it was kind of mixed in with the dialogue was some of the lyrics from these songs. So I just want to read a few of them to you so that you can understand like how crazy this soundtrack is. I might buy it just for the lyrics, because the lyrics are nuts. That Mavis Staples song is called Show Me How It Works. And some of the lyrics are, it's going to feel so fine when you're handing out favors, having your fantasies. Well, I'm first in line, baby, so don't forget about me. Right? I mean, I don't like the idea of Mavis Staples singing that.
I know, this is Mavis Staples from the Staple Singers. Jesus.
Yeah.
Man, that's a lot.
It's upsetting. Another one of the songs, I forget which one it was, but the main hook of it was, penetration is what you need, boy. Like, what's the context for that? Other than they talk about penetration when they're,
I was going to say, throwback to the penetration joke in the Office. Yeah.
But Jesus Christ. Like, I mean, these are very horny lyrics. So, they're all like kind of hidden behind that '80s synth pop, but man, they're naughty. And the other thing I found is that a lot of this stuff, I don't know if it was the lyrics or the compositions, or whether it was like full composition, but James Howard Newton had a hand in a lot of this. And you know him from, like we talked about him on the show, where he worked with M. Night Shyamalan. He's worked with a ton of big directors and still is. And he was uncredited in this. And so,
I wonder why.
Maybe the musical Alan Smithy of Wildcats. I don't know, but yeah, very horny lyrics, and it's the soundtrack is actually pretty fun because of that. I think if I'm feeling nostalgic, I might pick it up, because it's crazy.
I mean, yeah, you had to have strong soundtracks from like '83 on. I mean, from basically that point on, soundtracks really mattered for movies, especially middle of the road, low budget movies. I mean, you make a lot of money selling soundtracks, so you had to bring something.
at least just a lot of loud synthesizer that almost drowns out the action. That was a big part of it. And do you have anything else you want to talk about with this?
I don't think there's anything else really worth talking about with Wildcats.
So it was a rewatch and reconsider. So now that you've rewatched it and reconsidered it, have your thoughts changed on it?
I have to say no. I said at the top of the show, like I found myself having to defend Wildcats. I think it's a very watchable movie. I don't, even with all of its issues, I don't hate it. I still find it an enjoyable watch. There is one more point I wanted to make that I forgot about. At the end, after Prescott loses and the coach is a sequence where he's telling them to check Finch's jock for the money. It doesn't even matter. It's a stupid part. But
All-time tantrum, by the way, from a
yeah,
coach.
yeah.
Wow.
But every player on that team, not a single one of those guys looks like they're 18. One of them looks like he's 40. Like he's literally balding. Hey, I had to laugh. Like I'm looking at those guys. There's not a single one of those guys that looks even remotely close to being a high school player.
Well, Woody was, I think, 25 when they filmed this. So there's like a real Andrea Zuckerman from 90210.
But at least those guys look a little bit younger. Like these dudes, like not even close. Listen, one of them already has like full balding in the front of his head. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, well, that could have been the steroids. Those guys were big and
it is
really
possible.
meaty.
But yeah, I'm gonna give still find Wildcats to be watchable. I watched it multiple times this week. You know, I think the actors in it do enough to pull it off where it works for me. And again, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's not a very long movie. It doesn't waste time with things like score or plot or character development. Really, it just kind of moves along, and it works for me. Oh wait, we forgot to mention the best part for a music minute. I forgot the cheerleaders in this, which are one of the greatest cheers of all time. The UGLY, you ain't got no alibi, you ugly, which I think may have been written for this movie because I don't think I'd ever heard it before. And I guarantee you a bunch of people have used it since and probably have no idea where it came from. But I would go so far as to say I think that this is probably where it came from. Very memorable. I think those cheerleaders are one of my favorite parts of this movie. So
yeah, and they grow in size. I noticed as the team gets better. It's interesting.
I like these cheerleaders infinitely better than the cheerleaders in the replacements.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, when we'll rank everything at the end of the month, we'll see how the cheerleaders line up. But yeah, they were fun, and I like that they kept getting more and more cheerleaders as the thing went along. All right, well, that's it for Wildcats. Like you said, a fun and breezy film. I middle the road on it. I think some of the isms in it kind of bug me a little bit, but it's still of its time. And going back and looking past all of that, it's kind of a fun movie. So I'm glad we watched it. And if for no other reason, then I'm going to buy the soundtrack now. And I've had LL Cool J's song in my head for like 4 days. Thanks for that.
I mean, that song is kind of like the movie. It's not good, but memorable.
Yeah. It's a fun 3 minutes or whatever. So yeah, check it out if you can. I think I had to rent this on Amazon or wherever.
Yeah, it is not that easy to find.
Did you own it or did you rent it in the library?
No, I got it from the library.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's it for Wildcats. Let's talk about what we watched this week.
Yeah, I didn't watch a lot of movies this week. Found myself watching a little more TV, so I've been watching with my wife the Twisted Tale of Amanda Knox, which had been out for a few weeks, but there are a few episodes that built up, so we decided to watch it. My wife's big on that kind of stuff and followed it definitely more than I did. I really didn't know much about it at all, just the kind of peripheral stuff that I had heard. And I mean, it's genuinely shocking. Like watching the Amanda Knox story is genuinely shocking. Like I can't believe that any of that actually happened in reality.
It's crazy.
Yeah, just watching the way she was railroaded is insane. So we're about 4 episodes in. It's really well done. So I think most people know more than I do, but if you're coming in cold, I mean, it's a hell of a story. And what I do remember though is some of like the weird like sex cult stuff that I remember hearing in the periphery, like that I had come across. And just like knowing that I knew that is such an indictment of everything, because it's like that stuff was created out of whole cloth. Like none of that was even remotely true. And yet it was everywhere, where everyone
Yeah.
thought she was like a sex cult demon or something. It's just it's a huge indictment on the police force and the media and how they handled all of that. It's really something.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of at its core sexism and just bad news. I mean, yeah, it's a crazy story. I think this broke after I left Seattle, but she was from Seattle, and so I paid pretty close attention to it. And it, it's hard to believe there's another telling of it out there. I mean, I know she has a new book out too, and she has a podcast, I think. So she's uh, kind of making the most of it, I guess.
Look, she should get whatever she can get out of it. As I'm
Yeah,
watching this, I'm like, how does she not own that town? Like
I
she should
know.
basically own that entire town for what they did to her. Like that is what she deserves. That's what it felt like to me anyway.
Yeah. Did you watch anything else that you want to mention?
Nah, just I'm watching White Collar. I'm going back and rewatching White Collar with my youngest son, who really enjoys it. And because it's leaving Netflix pretty soon, we're trying to plow through all the episodes of White Collar. It's a good
Binging
time.
White Collar.
Yeah.
Wow,
I've always told you how I feel about White Collar.
man. Your viewing habits always amaze me. They really do. All the content out there, and you're watching White Collar.
Look,
Good for
it's
you.
hard to find things to watch with my youngest son. White Collar is a perfectly breezy, wonderful show to watch, and easy on the eyes too. So you know,
I get it. I only watched one thing this week, and I don't know if you're going to go see it, so I don't want to talk too much about it. I went to see The Long Walk last night. Are you going to see it?
yeah, Jen wants to see that movie, uh, so I probably will end up seeing it. I don't know when.
I'll just say a few things about it. It's harrowing. it's it's incredibly like prescient, or of this time, I guess I should say, and um, basically like an authoritarian story where there's like low uh, morale for the country, and so they hold this lottery for kids, young men, to do this walk to sort of like engage them again in patriotism in a weird way. It reminded me a lot of The Running Man, and I think it was written kind of around the same time. The book on which it's based, the Stephen King book, and
Really?
it's just like dark and upsetting. And a big part of that is because it doesn't feel like it's fiction. Like this could happen any day. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody sees this and is like, let's incorporate The Long Walk. Um, Much better than I thought it would be. I thought it was really compelling the way the characters were built, and I mean it's such a simple thing. You just have people walking and talking, and that's such a great opportunity to build these characters and really get into who they are and start to like them or dislike them. A big selling point for me is that it was written by J.T. Molnar, who wrote and directed one of my favorite films last year, Strange Darling. So I was really excited to see what he would do following that up. And he just did such a great job. The script is really strong. I don't know how far it deviates from the book, but I was really, really surprised by how much I liked it. And also how much I was like really unsettled by it.
Yeah, well, that's. I'm glad you said that because yeah, as I said, my wife wanted to show the trailer, and she's like, "We should go see this." And I actually didn't want to see it based on the trailer for that
I didn't
reason. Like,
either.
it looks like the kind of thing that I don't necessarily want to sit through. Just kind of really kind of dark and violent for the sake of being dark and violent, and some Stephen King stuff can go there, and it just didn't stand out to me as something I would rush to go see. But yeah, I'll probably check it out.
I will say that Cooper Hoffman is fantastic in it. I mean, I'm like a built-in fan of his because of who his dad is, but he was really, really good carrying this film. And Mark Hamill's great too. I mean, he's such a good villain. I mean, you know him really for being Luke Skywalker, like the opposite of a villain, but he's so good at it. I mean, that voice is like as he gets older, I think there's
I
just
mean,
like,
the best Joker.
yeah, that's right.
He was the animated series Joker for the entire run there. He's still at least top two of all time Jokers.
I will say, though, that even though those two performances were fantastic, who really stood out to me was David Johnson, who really don't know from anything. I mean, he plays a character called Peter McVries, and he is like the star of this film. Cooper Hoffman is like almost secondary to him. He's been in Alien Romulus, and I don't know him from really anything other than that, but he's just so compelling in this film. So I think this is going to really lead to a lot of good stuff for him. He's really, really great. And yeah, it's a strong cast, a lot of young people. Like I said, great story, great writing. Um, Highly recommend it. And it has something like a 93% critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So people really seem to enjoy it. And I hope it stays that high going into the weekend because it's really worth watching. All right. That's it for another episode. Thanks as always for watching or listening. And we'll be back next week with another football film. This is a really long month, it feels like. But I think things are going to get a little more exciting and speed up next week because we're going to talk about Any Given Sunday, the Oliver Stone directed football/war film from 1999. Not going to be as breezy as Wildcats was. I think it's going to be very intense. Be the Steve Latimer of these football films that we're watching. So be sure to come back and join us for that. And we will see you then. So long. As always, thanks for listening to the weekly movie Throwdown. We'll be back next week with another exciting episode, so be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. And for even more from us, visit moviethrowdownpod.com or connect with us on social media. We're Movie Throwdown on Letterboxd and at Movie Throwdown Pod everywhere else.